All right, let's do some Q&A, but before I do, make sure that I continue to answer just a question or two as far as who to train with, who not to train with. 3 guys that I didn't mention yesterday that I have spoken to all personally over the years, and I absolutely endorse them is, number 1, Evangelos, Sifu Evangelos over in Greece. He's Gary Lamb's student. The guy does Wing Chun for war. He's been head of security growing up throughout his life, so the guy knows exactly what Wing Chun is and what it isn't, and his Wing Chun is friggin' devastating. So Sifu Evangelos is one of Gary Lamb's top students, and he's over in Greece. I've talked to him. I actually have one of my closest friends who is a student of Evangelos. So yeah, I can absolutely attribute or contest. I can validate that Evangelos knows exactly what he's talking about. I have a good relationship with Sifu Justin Ock. The guy's been nothing but good to me, nothing but nice to me. We kind of come from the same lineage, too, under Steve Lee Swift and Simon Lau. Justin stuff out of Lakeland, Florida, it's fucking badass. It really is. I love his stuff. And he's around my height, so the guy knows what it's like to be a fighter. It's just us shorter guys. We got to know how to fight, scrap, get in there, get out of there. And he is produced. I mean, look at his class volume, but not just that. Look at the level of skill in his class volume. He knows what he's doing. I like, if you're in Lakeland, Florida, or you're able to, you could train with Justin Ock of Lakeland Wing Chun. And then whether or not you believe it, years ago via Skype, I had an hour-long conversation with Master Wong. I don't care what he puts out online. I don't care what his videos show or how many people, oh, it's not Wing Chun, this and that. He's an entertainer. But I'm going to tell you behind the scenes, yeah, Master Wong absolutely knows Wing Chun. He does. There's no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. Yeah, that guy knows his shit in and out, and that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, Dave Wakely says, I've been doing Wing Chun on and off for about 6 years with quite large gaps in learning. I still struggle with the turns in the second form. Any advice, Izzo? We call it, you had a follow-up. Hang on. I said turning, okay. Other people are responding to that. Turning and shifting are the same thing. So if you hear me say turning, shifting, same thing. I'm going to attach a video I did. Hopefully this will help in a visual aspect of it. But, I struggled with it for about 4 years on my own because now my lineage, I trained under Danny Halligan first. Danny Halligan was under Eric Lee. He used to be under Heimberger, Ron Heimberger, before he passed away. So it was Heimberger first, and then Eric Lee. Both were under Ip Ching. And then I went to Phil Nearing, and Phil Nearing was first under Steve Lee Swift, and then under Sam Kwok, and then I went to Syed Ahmad. Syed was under Dave Jeglin, who was classmates with Phil Nearing underneath Steve Lee Swift. And in my opinion, I'm glad I had exposure to all 3 because it got me where I'm at today. But hopefully the attached video will make some sense to you guys, and I hope these videos are making some kind of sense for you guys. I love, again, engaging with the questions, but keep them going, and let's take this for a spin and see what we could do on the Wing Chun. All right, here's a better position for you guys to wind up seeing. Just a couple concepts, all right? And here's the deal. Here's something to remember and understand, is that balance is indicative of you staying on your feet. That's it. That's all. For the sake of Wing Chun and all the arguments that go on about it, look, I'm even dusting off a terrain so I don't lose balance of anything. You have to remember the concept is simply that you're trying to maintain your balance in a fight. Right? End of story. How many of you will stand like this when you're talking to somebody in a bar? You know, you're just standing here and then you get knocked on your ass and get shoved in the chest. I'm flat-footed, so I find myself standing like this. All my life, I've just stood like this to alleviate the discomfort that's on the bottom of my feet and the arches of my feet. So for the sake of training and being that self-perfection that everyone likes to talk about, when you're in your stance, what do? You put your feet together, you sink, you open out to your feet, and then you open them out again to your heels. Typically, your heels should be at a position that are shoulder width. I am slightly larger up top, so I go a little bit wider because that's it. This is the most comfortable for me. This is where it's not too wide, it's not too uncomfortable, and it's not too close together. And I'll try to get into all this without really overkill. Here's the deal. The question was about the Chum Q shift. In Chum Q, our feet are forward. And again, we're getting really technical right now, but the shift is simply turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. That's the shift and or turn, okay? It's a synonymous term, shift and turn. And the concept is to be able to turn all that power, turn power, turn power, and stop. The problem I had for years, which Sam Kwok was never able to address, Danny Halligan, who was my first Sifu, wasn't able to address, Nearing wasn't able to address. That's Phil Nearing. He was my second teacher under Sam Kwok. Danny Halligan was under Eric Lee, who was under Ip Ching. The issue is turning and then not doing this. This was the problem. Everybody had the same answer. Just turn. Just turn. Turn. Well, when I was under Danny, it was lift up your toes and turn on your heels. Lift up your toes and turn on your heels. Lift up your toes and turn on your heels. And under Phil, it was just turn. Just turn. Just so he couldn't have an answer. Here's the deal. Number one, this is why we don't do like JKD does and do turn with your back leg up. The issue with having the back leg up is simply this. If pressure comes in, you got a lot of stability here. But I guarantee you, have anybody you know grab your arm in front of you and pull you forward. You'll be able to do this, but they can rip you out of your stance a whole lot more. If you're in a rooted stance, they can't pull you because of your quad and your adductor, your hip flexor and adductor are rooted down to the ground. And I'm getting really, really, really technical. We'll go over this, and I've gone over this before in several other videos, and I really want to keep this short. But the issue also is if you're in this position and they push you back, you're going to go rocking back, and then you're going to see your hip is over your dominant leg in the back, which is what the Lung Ting's lineage does, which is the 70-30 split. You turn, and 70% of your foot or your weight is on your back leg. The problem is you rotate your axis, and your axis comes offline and goes on here. You don't want that. You don't want that. You want your center line right over, where your anus comes right out in the ground. You turn, and you're right there with that 50-50 balance. Now, here's the deal with the 50-50 balance on your feet. It's all up to you. It lives anywhere you tell it to live. And what I mean by that is, we'll go over in the future the fact that your hip flexors have to put in like a third tripod into the ground, and there's a whole mentality for the self-perfection aspect of training your stance on that. And it's getting really complicated, I know. But when you turn, for me personally, I don't know if you can see it that much, I'm rocked on the instep of my foot. That's always been where my balance is because I'm flat-footed with a turn in, my arches turn in. When you push into me, and we've done these pressure test drills before, my hip flexor and my adductor dig into the ground. If you pull me forward, I'm still in the stance. You pull me backwards, I'm able to maintain the stance. The problem with this, here's the only problem I have with that rear toe engaged and the heel off the ground. In order to go forward, you could do this, but in order to go backwards, you have to put that back on. This is too dangerous, because if somebody pushes back into you, in order to recover your balance, you can't go here. It's your body. Try it. Go from here. It's too awkward to try and re-engage. You do this, your hip flexors are not engaged. It alleviates that pressure. It's your toe, your quad. You do this, it's your hip flexor. Feel the difference. Experiment on this. So my suggestion to maintain balance when turning, shifting, you turn and you dig. You focus on the back hip flexor, butt cheek, turn. This is what Danny Halligan could, and I'm not knocking my former Sifus. I'm telling you from the notes I took years and years and years ago, which I still have, what I found out, which is when you turn, you got to engage this and stop it. And you want to do it to a pace to where you're nice and slow. And you feel, my hip flexor, that's what's making that movement. Oh, my left ass cheek, that's what's engaged right now to stop me from toppling over. Oh, I turn. And you don't want to teeter back and forth. It is a slow process. Turn. You don't want to keep all 9 points of your foot on the ground at the same time, which is what some people say. You don't want to, you blow out a knee if you do that. And you don't want to pick up your heels and turn. The only reason they have you doing that is like training wheels, because all sports, we're like this. When I wrestled, it was like this. So I had to learn from this all my life to this. I was like, holy shit, how do you do that? Well, you turn, picking your toes up. Turn, picking your toes up. Turn, picking your toes up. And that's the concept. When you do it in application, turn. Now remember, one of Bruce Lee's sayings, which I said that I agree with, is when he just did a punch, first learned how to punch, it was just a punch. After years of learning, it was so much more than a punch, and then after a while, it was just a punch again. When I broke down the turn, I'm not kidding you, I overanalyzed it for about 4 or 5 years. What the fuck? I can't believe this is doing this, blah, blah, blah. A turn is literally just a turn. You're turning. You're turning. You're turning. After a while, it's, holy shit, it is ball of my foot, instep, heel, adductors, hip flexors, glutes, oh my gosh, bearing down into the ground, blah, blah, turning. Holy shit. You have to explore every inch of your body, including your upper half and how that works. Turn with the concept of having a glass of water on your head that you don't spill. Turn, turn, turn. Okay, this is the whole concept of this, and keep this in mind. Balance, you're going to try and keep balance as much as possible, sans from when you wind up getting punched in the face, because that's the one part where you cannot really control balance. Is somebody hits you right on the button, you're going to lose balance. So I'm hoping this made some kind of a difference and you guys can put this together on your own. I like answering these questions. Keep them coming. But that's turning, shifting, they're the same thing, and there's so many nuances on it. Hope that made sense. All right, I hope that video made sense. I mean, you know, shifting is what it is, and the bottom line is to explore on your own and to constantly to be looking at questions that you have. Get a notebook, write down your questions. I still have my notebooks from years and years and years ago, and I look at the questions, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this didn't make sense to me then. But turning, shifting frustrated me for years. For years it did. And one day it clicked, just like other things do. And that's why I said, you know, when you look at that punch, if you start to understand the punch is going to teach you every single thing else you need to learn, as far as the forms go, as far as the application goes, as far as everything else goes. So keep your questions coming. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications up. Share the videos. Get the controversy going, because the more people go, no, that's not Wing Chun. Number one, I don't fucking care what you think. Number two, well, why don't you show me what real Wing Chun is, motherfucker? Other than that, guys, it's all meant to be lighthearted and good and fun. And you guys are all on your own journey, and you'll arrive at the destination when the time comes. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next video.